Well, wonderful. Well, welcome to the board meeting of the Capitalized Holding Corporation. Pleased to welcome. We have and I am very pleased. We have a thoughtful agenda this morning, and we'll get right into it with a review of the minutes of May 21st, 2024. Can I get a motion, please? Motion. Second. Any further discussion or clarifications, modifications to the minutes of record? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, we have a report of the executive staff, corporation update. I think that. Yeah.
Gonna be internet. Is it working? No, not great for. Yeah. All right, one more. Yeah. All right, so we did the intros, so you're already aware of one of the latest staffing updates that Maria filled the position of executive assistant. We're super excited to have her. I think no one is more grateful to have Maria than myself personally, but I think everybody is really ecstatic to have her stellar skills on board with the team and adding to our capacity internally. And then also on the side, you'll see with the executive assistant interviews, we had the privilege of being able to meet another excellent candidate, Olivia Seawack. And so she fit more of an entry-level role. And as you know, we had a vacant program assistant position following December. So we will be happy to add Olivia Seawack to the team as a program assistant Wednesday. So tomorrow she'll be starting with us and she'll join Cassidy on the program assistant team. Cassidy's been doing excellent, but another set of hands and brains will be helpful to the mix for us to do work.
Will be fully staffed?
We will be mostly fully staffed, but there is another announcement that is positive on the personal side for Emma Fulham. However, unfortunate for the corporation. So Emma will be leaving us to attend a Master's of Business Administration at Yale. She will be leaving us July 12th. So a big loss for us personally as an organization, but great news for Emma. July 12th.
July 12th. So we would, this is your last word. Well, let the record reflect. We appreciate that. We wish you tremendous success, and that's a good school, not a great school. It's okay. Go Bulldogs.
All right, so please extend your, this one. Extend your best to Emma, because she won't be here for the next board meeting, which isn't until August. So what this slide is showing with all the beautiful pictures is ultimately that we've had a very busy month from end of May into June, which will get more into the agenda on specific subject matter related to Liberty Park and others. However, just really briefly wanted to talk that staff attended the annual conference at Cooperstown for the New York State Economic Development Council, and Cassidy and Andrew attended the basic economic developers course over there. So week-long course held at ETAC. And I had the privilege of being a course instructor, so they did have to listen to me for about 2 hours, talk about leading an economic development organization. And then also this month, we had an invitation to attend the Port of Albany for a huge professional development event for the New York State Department of State. They took their Department of State folks out into the community to learn about how economic development projects are partnering with the neighborhoods and really connecting those improvements to the neighborhoods. So there was a number of panelists, including Port of Albany staff, and then there was County Legislator Dr. Carolyn McLaughlin, South End Neighborhood Association President Joanne Morton, developer Jaquine Hope. Myself and Renee were also able to present and attend to talk specifically most about the downtown revitalization initiative and how we've been working with the city on those application processes to try to connect the Port of Albany offshore wind project to the residents and jobs and really expand upon business down there, add vibrancy, fill vacancies, remove blight and all of that. So it's a huge group, about 80 people. So anytime I can get a chance or we can get a chance to talk about that DRI to a large group of state representatives, we'll take it and sell it. As you know, we haven't been successful as of yet on that grant round, so we are hopeful on the next time around. We also, with the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, we had a smaller group of Department of State the next day that we could tour them around the Clinton Square District and walk them through all of the projects. So we walked them through as a team, DRI projects and how the majority of them are completed as of today. And there's a few ones that are wrapping up in terms of Clinton Square Studios. It needed its low-income housing tax credits to move forward, though they have their approval now, so that project will proceed. That's a partnership between Fairbanks Properties and CAC Board for 67 units total of affordable housing, and 10 of those are dedicated to artist studios related to CAC Board. So that was an excellent opportunity to be able to showcase the Clinton Square side of things and how we get things done in the city of Albany, to be able to keep that top of mind when we go to the next round for DRI. And then so leading off, I think the last thing on this slide is related to the Amplify Albany grant program. We made 3 awards in this month, totaling over $11,000 for 2 Juneteenth celebrations, as well as a gala for the Cultural Center. So we also, as a staff, we attended the Juneteenth celebration down in the South End. You see that in the bottom corner of the slide. We specifically participated in the kids zone. There was a direct ask if they could have more entities participate in the kids zone and add activities. We gave out, I think, more than 300 Capri Suns and had coloring sheets related to Albany places like the Palace, the museum, and things for kids to color with and take crayons and all of that. So just a nice add-on to our investments from the Amplify Albany program. And then with that, I'm going to jump to Renee and have her talk about CFA and grants.
Sure. As everyone knows, consolidated funding application round 14 was launched in May. We presented to the Common Council to let them know about changes in the strategic plan and new programs that are available and the new designation required for municipalities applying for economic development funds, which is to be a certified pro-housing community, which the city of Albany is on its way to doing. With the CFA, because we serve as the local liaison for the city of Albany, we help to compile all requests for letters of support from the mayor's office and also to help stay organized on the municipal resolutions required for applications. So we were able to present to the Common Council. We also typically host workshops to get more of the public informed and engaged on the opportunities available through the CFA. We were able to host that workshop yesterday. Mike Yevely attended. It was hosted by the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce. They were very gracious with sharing their space and their resources with us. And we had about 20 attendees, which is the most I've had in the last 4 years that I've done this. So it was a really positive opportunity for everyone. And then I'll just briefly touch on our grants. Those of you might recall, if you were here, the Small Business Building Improvement Grant Program. We were able to launch that last year. It was funded through the City of Albany's ARPA process, where they were handing out grants to qualified applicants for new programming and projects throughout the city with some of that money. We created the Small Business Building Improvement Grant Program, which has seen a very high success rate and completion rate at this point. I think we have about 60% of our grants reimbursed. So those are projects that have been done and gotten all of their paperwork in about a year, which is a faster rate than some of our other programs. So it's been very positive. The team was able to attend the New Scotland Spirits tasting room ribbon cutting on Lark Street on Friday evening. We also received our completion paperwork for Hive of Hope, which is a very interesting organization on Central Avenue that is a sober recreational facility. They had exterior improvements. You can see their sign. They were able to really jazz up that corridor a little bit with their installation. And then PWR Performance Wellness Recovery, owned by the woman who used to go by Kids, right, if anyone's familiar with her. So she just wrapped up her project and we're working through her paperwork now.
The only thing I'm gonna add is since the font is really small and these quotes are really poignant, I might read probably the shortest one from New Scotland Spirits. I can't even begin to articulate how much this helped. By having guaranteed reimbursement, we were able to secure an immediate loan, which helped kickstart the project. So they directly, after ribbon cutting, talked about how important this funding was and how critical it was to being able to add that tasting room to the Lark Street Business Improvement District. So just feel good moment, lots of nice sound bites from the business owners on these programs. It's a lot of work on their end. It's a lot of work on the staff end, possibly more, I would say. And so it's critical just to sort of have that feel good and remind ourselves sometimes how important it is for these small businesses and that it's critical graph.
I think it's great. I think it's great that you're out there celebrating the successes and the aggregation of all the and keep that drumbeat. You may see there's a bunch of hyperlinks and news articles. Many of them at least half true, and they strive to be half true. But don't get dissuaded by that. I think what we power through is with the work we do and the results we have. That's what you have to be focused on. And don't lose track based upon the commentary of the day and get some other things.
Since we were and we didn't have too much of it.
Okay, so we're gonna move up the agenda. Chair's discretion, I guess. We're gonna go to item 5, other business, neighborhood retail grant program, master grant agreement. And we're going to look at modifying our program modestly, specifically the boundaries to make it more inclusive.
Sure. So the Neighborhood Retail Grant Program was conceived in 2019 and 2020, modeled after the Downtown Retail Grant Program, which has been very successful in helping to facilitate investments in interior and exterior spaces, really primarily serving the goal of filling vacancies in our downtown. So with that, the concept was to create the Neighborhood Retail Grant Program in 4 corridors throughout the city that would work similarly to the Downtown Retail Grant Program. Those corridors were selected back in 2019 for their strategic location, their opportunities, and because they were Albany Community Development Agency neighborhood strategy areas. When the boundaries were drawn for that program, the market was a little bit different because it was pre-COVID. When we were able to launch in January of 2022, things had changed a bit. The team has, since January of 2022, walked every one of those neighborhood corridors multiple times to go door to door to the businesses and introduce ourselves. We've made contact within the real estate industry to try to let folks know that we have this program available. When we attend public events, we share information about the grant program. You know, I join weekly South End community collaborative calls. I'm always sharing information about it. Unfortunately, we haven't yet had the opportunity to bring an applicant from start to finish, culminating in an award. We have, over the last couple of years, received inquiries about that program from potential applicants who are one property removed from, you know, the boundary line, right across the street from the boundary line. And we realized that it could behoove us to be a little more flexible and still serve the intent of the program by focusing on certain neighborhood corridors. But make it a little more flexible and a little more encompassing as far as eligible areas. So with that, we've proposed an expansion of those boundaries. In your packet, you will see the originals and the proposed expansions. We brought, pursuant to our agreement with the City Capital Resource Corporation, who provided the funding for this program. They provided $100,000 in 2020 for it. We brought the boundary amendments to the Capital Resource Corporation Board for their approval, which they did provide on Thursday, this past Thursday. So we are bringing it to this board for review as well.
We talked a little bit about it, so what are the boundary extensions, how far are we going?
So
I know there's maps online, but I don't see them there.
they should be the last part of the package.
Yes, Marianne.
I think, that's good, I'm so much.
So we proposed the expansion based on where we were getting feedback for interest in additional areas. Also, we did keep in mind that some of the boundaries were a little bit larger to begin with. The South Pearl corridor that we had, you know, by acreage, the expansion is not of a high magnitude. We did incorporate some commercial opportunities on Morton, and other areas where we have been getting interest from individuals. So that one didn't change exceptionally dramatically. Arbor Hill, you know, that's one of the larger boundary expansions, quite frankly. The North Swan Street corridor, which is the original corridor, was very limited and has changed quite a bit and gone in more of a not-for-profit direction, which is eligible under the program, but just haven't hit a critical mass where we were able to find an applicant who is interested in pursuing the program. The North Albany, North Broadway corridor, we extended based on, again, where we were really getting interest in that program. And it comes a little bit closer to the downtown retail grant program guidelines.
Are we to read the maps with like the expansion site overlay on the original, like it's in addition to what the original?
Yes, yes, we did not cut out anything that had previously been
Got it.
included. We wanted to make sure of that. We did also propose the addition of language to the program guidelines, that would give capitalized Albany Corporation, staff the discretion to make an approval for someone outside the boundaries. And that really came from me drawing the maps and realizing that we're never gonna get all of the across the streets and the properties right next door. So we'll be able to take a look at those, and if it's still serving the intent of the program, we may recommend authorizing eligibility for those applicants.
It's super. Well, obviously the challenge of having boundaries, is always one property that's just not on the one. It'll always be. All right, can I get, so we have a resolution on here? I need to review. Yeah, you're gonna, Anthony's gonna recuse himself in this discussion. Can I get a motion, please, to, consider the expansion of these districts? Second. That's, all right, further discussion, sounds like the reports with action, very big, let's CRC and the idea. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
And I apologize, I took these a little out of order, partially to get the interesting conversation on the table first. The second resolution is the. I'm sorry, Chair.
About the first one. Okay. Sure, no opposition to the vote. I'm curious about how we allow the community to be aware of these changes. And are we maximizing, I'm new to the areas of forgiveness. Are we maximizing some of the community gatherings? Places of faith and, you know, some of those types of gatherings to make sure that more people are aware of these opportunities. Just curious, since you said there was not that many applications. Yes.
So we will launch the expansion of the boundaries through the ways we historically have, which is letting people know through our e-newsletter and making announcements on social media. We will continue to attend, quite frankly, we pretty regularly attend the community gatherings. You know, I would say we're out in the community probably twice a week between the team, and we're always talking about the program, so we will be letting folks know. We do have a number of people on the line who will now be eligible for their locations that we're going to reach out to as well, and I think the best advertisement for the program's existence and success is getting that first person in the door, take advantage of the grant opportunity, and then leverage that for additional promotional opportunities. We do also have networking contacts within some of those groups. So we have a couple of faith-based organizations that we regularly communicate with that will definitely let you know about the opportunity, our other community partners as well.
I think Torian's comment is great, and you know, you always, good work is happening. But if it's not working as you want it, you've got to reflect on that, think about that change. Right, so just think about that. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but you need to have a fresh look and try and think about, okay, we have this opportunity, we're changing this, this is a change, how do we communicate it? And make sure that the word is getting out there. We're doing it perfectly good. But take a moment to reflect on how we can work on it.
And can I make a suggestion? Sure. I'm fully supportive of all of this, but I'm just wondering, in things like this, if we should be empowering the staff. So that as the board, we're not dealing with maps and boundary administrators like that, but rather we're charging the staff with creating and administering the program that does ... and reporting back to us so that you guys can do what you guys need to do. So that I'm fine, all in favor, right? But it's just going forward, it's all just something.
Okay. We will circle back on that internally.
No, I'm looking at Andrews. Andrews may say, shut up, so no,
I'm all in favor of it. The challenge is when you're amending and if it's a specific governance issue about grant agreements and specific program guidelines that need corporate action. I have no idea. I'm all for doing less,
It's-
but,
Yeah, and so what I will specify for today's action item on the master grant agreement is that does have an authorization that requires that substantial modifications, I'm trying to pull the language, substantial modifications to the guidelines would go to finance committee for the review moving forward. So the current action item would include finance committee doing the review of those guidelines and bringing it.
Sure, it's the hardest work you can do.
what's, just have to ask them. Sure. All right. And then with that, there's modifications to the grant agreement?
So, as I mentioned, the funding for this program comes from the Capital Resource Corporation. Funding from Capital Resource Corporation has actually been utilized for our 4 consistently standing grant programs. For those of you who were here last summer, you might recall, we consolidated all of the grant agreements for each program under a master grant agreement, which was just designed to create efficiency and ensure that we weren't running multiple deadlines for having spent all of the funding by a certain date, because we consistently go to the Capital Resource Corporation Board to replenish those funds so that we don't run out of money before we hit 0 in the accounts. So with that, we managed it for the Amplify Albany Downtown Retail and Facade Improvement Program last year. What we ended up with were 10-year terms for those, and then the grant agreements need to be revisited after the 10 years. It also establishes a reporting timeline, so by April 15th of every year, you'll get a full report on the activity for the grants from the prior year. Neighborhood retail just was not included in the catchment last year for what we instituted the master grant agreements for, because it had not been an active program, and we were prioritizing efforts on promoting that program, and it just didn't need to be subject to the master grant agreement at that point. So we're recommending the board consider approving master grant agreement for neighborhood retail. And the one thing I will note about it is that we made this one a 9-year term so that it lines up with the other 3 programs and expires at the same time.
So to bring this up a little bit out, and all those details exactly correct, this is, as we've traditionally done, just approving guidelines for a grant program. The staff implements it. In learning from the past, we've included within the guidelines what Michael was talking about, the ability for the staff to do more adjustments. Except when it gets to a substantial level, then it would go to the finance committee. In the past, the one that we're amending, we didn't, staff, I think correctly, didn't think they had that flexibility in the guidelines that were approved previously. So all this one does is just approve guidelines, and then the staff goes and executes.
Can I get a motion, please, for the motion? I'm moving. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Those. Important work. All right, so that takes care of number 5. And then we'll move to the report of the Liberty Park Committee. At any point, do we need to be in executive session?
I think we would indicate when the committee met and some general terms they discussed, and then we move to executive session to discuss litigation, potential appointment to a corporation, and also proposed potential acquisition of real estate with public publicity of the substantially affected staff.
Okay, so we'll do that. We'll choose our introductory report and we'll do the session.
Yep, so the Liberty Park Committee met last week, had a wonderful discussion. It had been a little bit of time before we have had a Liberty Park Committee, I think, since April of 2023. So it was great to get back and do an overall update with that committee. And coming out of that update, I'm gonna just say maybe some general statements. Supportive of, 34 Hamilton being a strategic priority for Liberty Park. And potential suggestion for, if necessary, pursuing, looking at financing either for that acquisition or for future projects that are of that strategic prioritization of the corporation. Is there anything from the committee that anybody else wants to share before we jump into an executive
So
session?
for new members here, for anything, just
Right.
So you're competing with the AC back here, so your voice stay a little bit.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about that.
Be more robust, be more robust. All right, any questions, of actually in the general tone before we go to executive session to discuss litigation?
Litigation,
Real estate
potential appointment of corporation or individuals and potential acquisition of real estate.
And litigation.
Yes, sir.
We we can dig in,
We can throw it.
dealer's choice.
Three.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, can I get a motion to executive session? So, second. All right, so we have
Thumbs up.
Yeah, I think this was bounced back.
Yes, please do. Just give a moment so we can pause live stream and pause recording.
We're back, we're out of executive session, no actions were taken, we discussed litigation status, real estate activity of the corporation. Coming out of that, we are prepared to make a motion to amend a pre-existing resolution.
Yes, sir. So the motion that we're seeking to be made and seconded would be an amendment to resolution 7-2024 that was passed in May of 24, and it would amend that resolution to remove the requirement of the president to negotiate and enter into an agreement with the ESD, and to the president obtain written documentation from ESD related to certain funding prior to acquisition. And it would also then add the condition that the president continue to negotiate and seek funding from ESD for the purposes of acquisition of 34 Hamilton.
I'll make that motion. You can second, please. Second is. Any further discussion or any discussion of the motion which would amend the pre-existing resolution? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Was there any opposed? Any abstain? Carried unanimously. Wonderful. Let's do that. All right, what's next on our agenda?
I think just,
We're gonna lose Evan. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I think just really briefly, we talked about Clinton Market next steps in the finance committee. We are approaching construction completion, working through a number of action items related to power supply and shipping containers. You should see them coming soon. So hopefully we'll have, to see them hopefully later this week. And be able to see them on site. We are also working on a refresh of the operating projections in terms of revenues and expenses. Trying to keep a conservative approach to all of those items. So on the expense side, looking at maintenance and operations there, talking with the parking authority and going to do a procurement to get additional quotes on what it would take to have snow removal and all of the assorted garbage removal, all the things that take care of Clinton Market, and we'll keep it beautiful and pristine. So we'll work through a procurement there. We won't, it doesn't look like we'll need board action in terms of that procurement. We'll just follow the procurement policy and make a prudent decision with respect to that. And then on the operation side, in terms of events management and whatnot, we will need to issue a request for qualifications or a request for proposals to identify parties interested in promoting events and doing events management on site for that facility. It's kind of a capacity thing, I think, internally for us to manage that from an events side. We'd really like to see someone that can prioritize, and that's their bread and butter of what they do, run events, manage that program. So we have a really, really rough draft of that that we're working through, and we'll get that out. In the interim, staff will be working through to try to promote sponsorships. Things that we had talked about in the past, like naming rights, sponsorship of various amenities and items on the park. Really try to get any of that additional revenue sources that we can. Try to fill the shipping containers with vendors and get all that live and up and ready.
How easy or difficult is it to wrap one of those containers with like somebody's brand?
Easy.
Easy.
Very easy.
Yeah, I think we've talked with some entities about options for that. We've contemplated whether it be artistic signage related to Clinton Market, incorporating the naming and incorporating maybe sponsorship as well. So we'll just have to, as we wrap up construction, we have a very small contingency remaining. And so we want to be able to make sure we have signage related to what's permitted on site, but also like what it is, and be able to tap into sponsorships for anything else that's needed.
Is that information available that we could possibly share with some of our members who may be interested in that? I would love to see that and share that with.
Yep, we have a sponsorship package and we're just refining it to include costs related to branding, things like the umbrellas with sponsor logos and all of that, but we do have
Because
that.
one did ask, are we still on target for completion by the end of July? And I was like, yes, of course. But there is interest in, that opportunity. That would be something of interest to a few members. Definitely.
Okay, awesome,
Agreed, I'd love to see a sponsorship.
awesome. Would love to share it with anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
Spread it around.
Okay.
Please do.
That's it.
That's it? All right, so the meeting went long. Is there any need for an executive session? Anyone feeling the need to just talk and hang out a little more together? Can I get a motion to adjourn for this? Thank you all for your time and consideration. Boy, and thank you for your contribution to that wonderful answer this.
Part of the journey.
I guess that is-